South Bay Prevention page, our Street Racing Kills Facebook Live, additionally SBC3 and Ubuntu Institute for Learning. So as a heads up, we will be doing some polling throughout this event just to test your knowledge, and also we'll have an evaluation period for you all to complete the evaluation and give us some feedback, let us know some things we can work on, and then also we'll conduct a raffle at the end. So now let's meet our presenters. So we have Melissa Estelle. Melissa is president of the Curly Hair Gang, makes earrings, finds baking shows soothing, and likes floating in water, as you see in her photo. We have Minor Borjas. Minor has played the piano for 8 years, was in France when they won the World Cup in 2018, visited family in El Salvador, and was able to try authentic pupusas, and has never been admitted to the hospital. We have Roberta Tapp on the far right. Roberta is a butterfly sitter, has never broken a bone, eaten uni in Japan and alligator in Canada, and her favorite dream vacation spot is Maui in Hawaii. We have Damien Kevitt. Damien loves cycling, raising tropical fish, and his wife. Oh, and his mom, dad, sister too. He used to live on the island of Guam. Does anyone know where that is without using Google? If you do, put it in the chat. He started college when he was 14 years old. He was 15 when he visited a mine in Nevada where the US stores high-level nuclear waste. Then we have Fred Noya from the Carson Station, LACSD. Carson Station, Officer Noya is an avid hiker and golfer. Not the best at golf, but he enjoys the challenge. He loves having a boxer dog as a family addition, which he does not consider a pet. His favorite pastime is coaching kids in baseball, and he makes it a point in the summer months to have an all-day beach Friday. So I love that. We have Lily Trujillo. Lily is an exercise freak. She used to be a Tahitian dancer, and she loves traveling. She loves animals so much, she can't even kill a spider. And last but not least, we have Maria Avila. Maria enjoys going to the park with the kids. She loves T-bone steaks, and she loves when her kids scare her, and her favorite character is the Flash, and Maria's with Street Racing Kills. So now I'll hand it over to Melissa, Minor, and Roberta to go into impaired driving.
Thank you, Erica, much appreciated. Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Estelle. I'm a senior program specialist with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And our mission, of course, is to end drunk driving, help fight drug driving, support victims, which we do completely free, and prevent underage drinking, which is why we participate in events like this. So more about underage drinking. Of course, there's a lot of things out there to be afraid of, right, for parents especially, but alcohol is still the #1 drug of choice. It's the easiest to get, usually in the home, and consider all the times that you see alcohol advertisements and things like that throughout the day. And teen alcohol use does kill more than 4,000 teens every year. Only 1/3 of those is traffic related. So there's a lot of other dangers out there. And of course, we support 21 as the minimum drinking age because the brain is not fully developed until the mid-20s. So these are all of those underage drinking related deaths that I mentioned. Again, only 1/3 is traffic related. The rest is homicide, suicide, alcohol poisonings, other poisonings, drownings, fires, and falls. So of course, a lot of accidents can happen when people are under the influence, especially now, stress, anxiety. Some people are coping with alcohol and other drugs, even adults, right? So please consider, what type of example that you're setting in your home. Of course, we want to encourage kids to have healthy ways of coping with whatever they have going on. We don't want them to turn to alcohol and other drugs. So poll time. How many teens admit to being the passenger to a drinking driver? Is it 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in 3, or none? How many teens admit to being the passenger to a drinking driver? And you can close the poll whenever you're ready, Erica, or whoever's managing the polls.
We will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. So, all right, so most people guess 1 in 5, but I see we've got just 3 people who got it right. It is 1 in 3. Now consider with that question, and a lot of people think, well, would they admit it? So consider that there may be a good amount of teens that are not admitting to being the passenger to a drinking driver. So of course, number 1, never drive impaired, don't drink underage, but of course talk to your kids about never getting in the car with somebody who's under the influence, whether that's alcohol, marijuana, or any other types of medication. So going along with that, make a plan together about how you're going to get home safe. Teens might be afraid to, call you because they're going to get afraid of being in trouble. Hopefully they're not out too much in times of Corona, but agree to discuss things once everybody's sober. If they have made that choice, if they have made that mistake, at least they know that they can call you and get home safe and everything's going to be fine. We know as parents, you guys just want them to be safe and get home. So who is the alternative? If it isn't a parent, maybe it's an aunt or an uncle, maybe a grandparent, older cousin, someone that they trust and that is going to get them home safely. Of course, they can make use of rideshare apps, but be the example. Buckle up every time, never drive impaired, and of course, never ride with somebody who's under the influence. And we always want students to know the signs of alcohol poisoning. We want them to be a good Samaritan because at the end of the day, no one's going to face legal consequences if they're just calling 911 to get medical attention. We think throwing up is just a common thing of drinking too much, but it is a sign of the body shutting down. So it's important to know the recovery position, get them on their side or sitting up, and of course, again, call 911 to get them that help they need. Better to be in trouble than to be at a funeral. So for our students out there, right, protect your squad, protect your friends, protect yourself. You guys have the power to stand up and be an influence for those in your life. So of course, make a pledge to be alcohol-free, drug-free. Find others that are going to share in your commitment, right? It's much easier to go along with the crowd if they're doing the safe, responsible thing like you want. And watch out for those pressures. They can be direct or they can be indirect. Things like social media can make it seem like everyone's doing it, and you put that pressure on yourself to join in and fit in with the crowd. So just watch out for things like that. And of course, if you do have those people in your life that are pressuring you, you want to eliminate those types of relationships, right? Because they're not serving you, they're not healthy. And if you want to get more involved with MAD, we do have our annual Teen Influencer Summit coming up on Saturday, November 7th, just from 11 a.m. to 12:30. And the goal of this teen conference is, again, like this event, to positively impact our knowledge and attitudes around underage drinking and impaired driving. Teens lead the show here. There's also going to be a workshop for parents so you can get a little bit more information, and you can register at that link there. I'll type that in the chat as well. And parents, what can you do? 3 out of 4 teens say that their parents are the #1 influence on their teen's choice to drink, because you're the #1 source of information, right? So talk to them, find out what they think about these issues. You can download our handbook at mad.org/powerofparents. Got great information there for you just to have tips and tools on how to have those ongoing intentional conversations with your kids about alcohol and other drugs as well. So you can find more updates about us at MAD California on Facebook and Instagram. And there's my information. Again, Melissa Stell. That's my phone number, email, and you can download our parent handbook at that site as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for all your information and everything. We appreciate you. And I'll go on ahead and be talking about drug driving, specifically looking at marijuana. So let me go into presentation mode. And so my name is Minor Borjas with Behavioral Health Services. And like I said, today I'm going to be going over drug driving, looking at the dangers of marijuana and driving. So before we go too into it, I do want to mention that The reason why Roberta and I are going to be going right after each other is opioids and marijuana have similarities in them. You'll see in my presentation, some of the stats are like, oh, okay, you know, they group marijuana and opioids together. There are some key differences, but some of the stats match up. So just keep in mind that some of the, if you look through, there might be some things that are like, oh, okay, this opioids, why are we talking about opioids? But they have some similarities in them. And so what is impaired driving and what is drug driving? So impaired driving refers to driving after drinking alcohol or taking drugs. But what we're looking at today is right now is drug driving, which refers to driving while under the influence of legal or illegal substances. And something that I'll mention is throughout the presentation, I might throw out the word illicit drugs. And so illicit drugs specifically refers to marijuana, cocaine, opioids, and sedatives. So let me throw some facts with some stats at y'all. So in 2016, 43.6% of people who were killed in car crashes had positive drug test results, meaning that they tested positive for having illicit drugs in their system. On top of that, in 2017, 12.8 million people drove after using illicit drugs, meaning that they were putting themselves at risk of falling into that 43.6%. This is something that isn't like, oh, you know, like it's just, I can just do this and, you know, I won't become a percentage. Part of that 43.6% probably thought the same thing and they fell into the percent. So it's good to think twice, 3 times, 4 times, maybe even just don't think about it, just don't do it. And so let me throw some more stats at y'all. So according to the Fatality Analysis Reporting System in 2016, 38% of drug-positive fatally injured drivers had marijuana in their system. So in total, looking at this chart, we have 58% of drug-positive fatally injured car crashes were caused by marijuana, opioids, or a combination of the two. So think about it, that's like 1 in 2 crashes. That's something to really think about when, if this is something that you think about, like, well, I just took one hit, or like, you know, I just used it a little bit, it should go away by the time I drive. No, just don't do it. So why am I telling y'all not to do it? So the reason is that marijuana affects judgment of time and distance and reduces hand-eye coordination, 2 things that are essential for driving. So what this means is that, let's say you're driving, you're minding your business, and then someone cuts you off. Usually the reaction is just to, you know, brake, you know, you don't have to do like a harsh brake or anything like that, but usually you would brake. I hope y'all would brake, because then, you know, you might get into an accident. If a pedestrian crosses the street, you have to let them have the right of way because that's the law. If a green light turns yellow and it's safe for you to stop, then most people would stop. But if you use marijuana before and well, before you started driving or during driving, it's just not good to do it in general. But if you do that, you won't be able to react in time if a car cuts you off, or if a pedestrian is crossing the street, or even if a green light turns yellow. So driving after using marijuana doesn't only just put you in danger, it puts others in danger as well. And so how do you prevent drug driving? So this might seem kind of like common sense, but sometimes it's good to point out the more common things. So a big thing is awareness. In order to combat something, you have to know what it is. So make sure to educate yourself and educate your friends about the effects of marijuana. Talk with your family about it. In attending this event, sorry, you're taking a right direction. You're taking a step in the right direction by increasing your awareness of drug driving. On top of that, if you know there will be drugs and or alcohol at the party, just don't go to them. You might think that it's cool or you're fitting in, but it's just not worth losing your life. And if you're 21 and older, always assign a designated driver and make sure that you can trust that person to stay sober. If you can't find a DD, it's just better just not to go out. There will be more chances. There will be more chances when you have a DD, but it's just better not to risk your life. So what is something that you can do right now? If you're ever in a situation that you feel uncomfortable, so let's say you hang out with someone or you're doing something with someone and then they pull out, they try and encourage you to drink or use drugs, you always have the option to say no. You can take yourself out of that environment. And even when in the way that you say no, if you say, well, no, I don't know, I don't think right now, that's kind of leaving room for the other person to question you, maybe even try and convince you. But if you just give a solid no, most people will just be like, okay, I respect your opinion. There you go. And if they don't, then that would be the time to really evaluate whether or not this is someone that you want to have in your life. And so how would you take yourself out of an environment where you feel uncomfortable? It's some common things, like something that I've used actually is I'm going to the restroom right now, because who's going to question, oh, why do you need to go use the restroom? Like, no one's going to question you. So you can go to the restroom, or you can just step outside. On top of that, you can say, I'm going to get some fresh air. Text me if you need anything. That way, when you step out, you're also letting anyone else who's in there who might be feeling uncomfortable text you as well. So that way, you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping others inside. And so now we're gonna play, well, it's not like a little game, but I just wanna see if there's at least something that you learned from this. So we're gonna go over a little scenario. This is pre-COVID, so let's not worry about COVID at all. So let's say that some friends invite you to a chill hangout. None of your friends are able to drive. However, the person who drove you was a friend's older brother. It's a good time, you're having a blast, you're enjoying being with your friends, but you start to notice that the DD has pulled out a vape pen and is smoking from it. You ask your friend about it and they say, oh, it's just marijuana, he can drive us back. Knowing what you know now, what would you do? So now we're gonna be launching the poll so that we can see what people say. Okay, and so the answer choices are call a Lyft to go home. And if you're not old enough, definitely text maybe an adult or something who would be able to send a Lyft to you. Still ride home with the people you came with. You can try to stop the DD from smoking, or would you stay at the party and figure it out later? So these are the options. If anyone has any other things that they would do or any suggestions, definitely put it in the chat. These aren't definitive. These aren't the only things you can do, because there's many ways that you can get out of this situation. We're all here to learn together. So Erica, whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and close it.
Okay, so we have about 76% who has voted. So we're gonna close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, cool. So it seems like the majority of people said call a Lyft to go home. And I think that would be the smartest decision, the smartest choice in all of the options, because then you get yourself out of this situation. And on top of that, if anyone else is feeling uncomfortable, they can say, hey, I noticed that you ordered a Lyft. Would you mind if I ride with you? I can sleep over, or something like that. You can try to stop the DD from smoking, but the damage has already been done. The impairment has already begun. So if you do try to stop the DD, yeah, it might be, you might feel like you're doing something, but their driving skills have already become impaired. And stay at the party and figure it out later. Eventually this will be a problem that you will have to address. So why not do something now instead of holding it off for later? So thank you everyone so much for participating. And we're going to go on ahead and here's my, sorry. Here's my information. As I said, my name is Minor Borjas. I provided my email and my phone number. Here is the BHS website if you'd like to go check out any of the resources that BHS has. And here's our address in case you'd like to go to the site itself. And thank you so much for your time. And now I'll pass it to Roberta to talk to us about opioids.
Thank you, Minor. That's some really great information. And I appreciate you talking a little bit about how those numbers included opioids, which is the next thing that we are going to discuss. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Roberta Tapp, and I am a prevention outreach specialist, and I work at Behavioral Health Services as well. And I am going to go ahead and start the slideshow. Let me see, just one second. I apologize. I'm blocking my controls. All right. So opioids, which is also known as prescription drugs. So I want to start off by giving you guys a fact. The fastest growing drug problem in the United States is not cocaine or heroin or methamphetamines, even though you might hear a lot about them in the news. It's actually prescription drugs. And unfortunately, we're finding out that teenagers are some of the people that are actually being affected by it negatively. So I'm actually going to start off with a poll. So our first poll is, what percent of teens have at least one friend who abuses painkillers? So the poll is up, and basically you're just going to put down either A for 22%, B for 44%, C for 33%, or D 66%. And these are teens who have at least one friend who abuses painkillers. So we are at about 68% of you who voted. So go ahead and get your votes in. We're going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. And then we'll share the results. It looks like 35% of you think it's 22%. And the actual answer is B. It's 44%. 44% of teens have at least one friend who abuses painkillers, that's a pretty high number. So we're going to keep going, and you're going to learn a little bit more of how or why this happens. So I apologize, my computer wants to act crazy. So that was the percentage we just talked about. 44% of teens have at least one friend who abuses painkillers. Another fact, 2 out of 5 teens believe prescriptions are safer than street drugs. So we have another poll. We're testing you guys tonight. What percent of overdose deaths are caused by prescription painkillers? A, 40%, B, 50%, C, 60%, or D, 70%. So if we could launch that second poll, you'll go ahead and pick what you think is the percent of overdose deaths caused by prescription painkillers. 40%, 50%, 60%, or 70%. So we'll go ahead and leave the poll open for a few more seconds. We've got 54% of you who have voted, so get your votes in. We're going to close it in 3, 2, 1. We're going to end that polling, and it looks like you guys all think about the same. 73% of you think it is C, 60%, and you guys are absolutely correct. You guys are a smart crowd out there. 60%. Again, here's that fact. 60% of overdose deaths are caused by prescription painkillers. These are prescriptions. And 25% of teens have taken prescriptions that are not even prescribed to them. 25%. Here's another fact. 1 in 6 teenagers admit to taking prescription drugs to get high or change their mood. So it gives you some insight on what they're thinking that these pills are going to do for them. All right, we have our last poll. According to a national survey, what percent of high school students took a prescription drug without a doctor's prescription, such as Oxycontin, Percocet, Vicodin, codeine, Adderall, Ritalin, or Xanax, 1 or more times during their lifetime? Sorry if my box is blocking. So go ahead and guess if you want A, which is 16.8%, B, 12.4%, C, 10.6%, or D, 15.7%. This is the percent of high school students who took a prescription drug or pill without a doctor's prescription. So we'll go ahead and close the poll in 3, 2, 1. It looks like B was the winner here, but the real answer is actually A. It's 16.8% of high school students taking prescriptions that do not belong to them. So while we're all here tonight, talking about impaired driving, and Minor talked about, and this information that I'm sharing with you is 100% about opioids and about prescription drugs. So what is drug impaired driving? It's driving under the influence of an over medicine, a prescription drug, or illegal drug. And why is drug impaired dangerous? Sorry, it's telling me my connection is difficult or having trouble. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. So the main thing, like Minor mentioned as well, when it came to marijuana and driving, it affects the brain. It can alter perception, your mental process, your attention, your balance, your coordination, and reaction time, just like with any kind of drug that you put into your body, which is very similar to alcohol as well. A national survey showed that 20% of weekend nighttime drivers tested positive for illegal prescription or over-the-counter drugs that can impair driving. When you go to the store and you buy, even cough medicine, it clearly says on there, do not operate a moving vehicle. So that's with over-the-counter drugs. So prescription drugs is even stronger. Too much into this, and I just wanted to touch on it real quickly. We are in the South Bay, and some of the drugs that are kind of trending right now with youth is Xanax and Adderall. And again, this is information that's pre-COVID. I think things have changed a little bit right now, but it's still something that we need to educate ourselves on. Common street names for opioids: Adderall, sometimes they're called speed or uppers or pep pills. Xanax, sometimes they're called Xannies. Xanbars or handlebars. Oxycodone is also nicknamed Oxy, Oxycontin. Berries, killers, perks or Roxys. Codeine, Cody, lean, scissor, purple drank, and lean, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a minute. Adderall, this basically talks about how a lot of people who have ADHD have this prescription, but it actually starts to become abused when they start giving it to friends to help them like stay awake so they can study longer. And before they know it, they get hooked on it and they're buying them and using them when they don't even have a prescription for them. Oxycodone, again, it's one of the most abused prescription drugs in the country. So not just in our city, but across the nation. Xanax, this is the #1 prescribed psychiatric medicine in the United States. It's powerful, powerful drug. And it's used for anxiety disorders or panic disorders. And sometimes it says 70% of teens with a Xanax addiction get their drug from a family medicine cabinet. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well coming up. And then codeine, which is one of the things I mentioned, has those nicknames as Scissor and Purple Drank. It's something that was popular in music. And so the kids start learning about it through trying to, I think, be cool or fit in. And it's really not cool at all, but it's something that we need to educate ourselves about because it is very dangerous. Fentanyl in the United States. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than morphine and 50 times heroin, and it is a synthetic opioid. And I'm sure you've heard about it on the news. And the one thing I want you guys to take note of is if you look at this jar, this amount of heroin that's there is equivalent to amount of fentanyl. So if you look at that fentanyl, there's just like hardly any pieces in there. That's how it is. So where are teens getting painkillers from? So some of them do start off with maybe an injury, maybe they've had a surgery, and they've got pills that were prescribed to them, and maybe they enjoyed the feeling of that high feeling that they got, and then maybe they get addicted to it. They start stealing it from friends or family members that maybe have some old prescriptions that they kept. They might get it from classmates or family members or guardians. And it's always a really, really important thing to remember is sharing prescription drugs with family members or friends. It is illegal. You are not supposed to do that. Some signs of addiction. I think it's really important because opioids are prescribed and people think it's safe, but they don't realize how dangerous they really are and how quickly their body can become addicted to them. And they start to take the medicine even though they don't have any more pain. They start changes in their mood. They become hostile without it. Their sleeping patterns might change. Either they become extremely sleepy or not sleepy at all. And they start making some, poor decisions and putting themselves in danger. About maybe driving even when they're under the influence of a medication. So here are some tips that parents can take note of about youth and prescription abuse is, to talk to your doctor. If their youth is or going in for a treatment, maybe talk to the doctor about other options. Oops, sorry about that. My computer's going crazy. Talk to your teens, be open with them, talk to them about the effects of drugs, especially if you have addiction in your family. It's important to let them know that. If you have or expired drugs, you need to dispose of them, and we'll talk about it, or lock them up if it is something that you need for future use. And then also, discuss openly with them about not taking anybody else's prescription. This is a really cool website. You guys are all going to get a copy of this presentation, but if you ever find a pill or wonder what a pill is, you can actually go to drugs.com. Let me confirm if it's with an S or not, if it's plural, but you can enter in the number in there and it'll actually tell you exactly what it is. And then as I mentioned, this is actually something that happens twice a year, once in April and once in October. The DEA does a take back. So you can actually go to, usually it's a fire station or a police station, and drop off any unused or expired or discontinued medications that you have, and they'll be happy to take it from you. You just drive through and hand them a bag and you just drive off. There's also some stores, retailers that have drop boxes as well. And the DEA has a great website. You can actually, I'll put it in the chat. Go there and you can search for a site in near your home. And those are actually coming up. There's one tomorrow. I know Erica's doing it. And that's the end of my presentation. And I am going to put a few links in the chat, a couple really great handouts. And so if you have any further questions, this is my email address, and this is my phone, and I thank you for your time. And I'm going to pass it back to Erica.
Yes, thank you, Melissa, Minor, and Roberta for the information that you all shared. And we hope that you all were able to get better understand the effects that substances may have on you while you're driving or while you're in the car with someone that may be using. And like Minor said, hopefully you all think twice, or maybe just don't do it at all. And as Roberta mentioned, tomorrow we will be having our RX take back from 9:30 to 2, from 9 to 2 tomorrow. Well, actually it's, I think, from 10 to 2. So we hope that we see you all there at Sam's Club in Torrance. So now we'll hand it over to Damien for the hit and run bicycle safety. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Okay, so my name is Damien Kevitt, and I'm the Executive Director of Streets Are For Everyone. I'm going to share my screen for just a little bit here. I'm mostly just going to be talking and going over data, and But I do want to share my screen a little bit to show you a bit about my story. And share screen, there we go. So I started Streets Are for Everyone after I'm a cyclist, a runner, and in February 2013, I was cycling in Griffith Park with my wife, and I was hit and pinned underneath a car and dragged nearly a quarter of a mile from the streets of Griffith Park onto and down the 5 freeway at freeway speeds and left in traffic lanes on the 5 freeway. As you can see, I lost my right leg. Me in the hospital. I should have lost my life, but miraculously I survived. And from that, I started Streets Are for Everyone and worked on not only hit and runs, because what happened to me was a hit and run, but safety for all road users. And we work a lot with cyclists and runners and city council members and all forms of all levels of society working on street safety issues. So I wanted to go over some information on hit and runs. And just first, let's just define what a hit and run is. And a hit and run is a crime. And it's a crime where a driver of a vehicle is involved with a collision with another vehicle or with a person or with property, and knowingly fails to stop and give their name, their license number, and other information required to the injured party or to law enforcement officers. So that's the definition. If you've had a collision and you don't stop for whatever reason, it's considered a hit and run. Now, here's a question, which is how often do hit and runs happen in Los Angeles? We're going to do a little poll on that. And how are we doing this poll here? There we go. So how often do hit and runs happen in Los Angeles? And fill that out there. Give it a few more seconds. All right, let's go ahead and close that there. Okay, good. So 50% of you said about 30% of the time, 29% said almost 50% of the time, 14% said over 50% of the time. So the correct answer is almost 50% of the time. It's actually 48% of the time there are a collision is actually a hit and run. So that's pretty high. The national average, by the way, is 11 to 12%. So when you have in other cities and other parts of the country, it's 11 to 12%. In Southern California, specifically in Los Angeles County area, it's 48%, which is a huge big deal. They don't actually know why there's so many. There's most times when there's a hit and run, you don't talk to the person. They've left. You can't find them. So, but it is a problem in this area. And there's two basic types of hit and runs. There is property damage and physical damage. So obviously when one hits someone, you have a moral obligation to stop. This is a moral obligation just as a citizen of this country and as a concerned individual. It's not something where you want to go walk away and think the rest of your life, I just hit someone and I ran. Like, can you imagine how you would feel if you've done that? You've hit someone and you just ran, how that's going to make you feel from here on out. The person that hit me never stopped and was never caught. Can you imagine what he must feel knowing that he had pinned someone underneath his car and dragged him down the freeway? Like that's a pretty serious thing to live with for the rest of your life. Besides that, there's also the law. And for property damage, if you don't actually physically hit a person, but you hit another car and you don't cause any injuries, you are required to stop, give your driver's license and your phone number or address, phone number or address, and insurance information. And if it's not your car, you have to also give the address and the information of who's the registered car owner. That is what's required by law. You are also required at either at that point, if there's a police officer, or afterwards to file a police report. And those are very simple to file. It's a good idea if you have a collision to get any witnesses and get information from them, but that's not required by law. What is required by law is to give your driver's license to the other person, your contact information, insurance information, and if the car is not yours, let's say you're driving your parents' car or you're driving someone else's car, you would need to give the information of who the registered owner is. If someone's not around, what if you've got someone that's not around and you've hit their car accidentally? And what do? You're actually required by law to leave a note, and you're supposed to actually put it in their windshield, right on top of their windshield there. And that is what the law says, is leave a note and let them know, the same contact information. If you injure someone, you are required to stop until you have authorities there. So obviously, if an ambulance is needed, the very first thing you need to do is make sure that a person gets medical care. And usually police are called onto the scene immediately. And that should be done in any case of injury, even if it's minor injury. So, and you have to make sure that the police has your information. If you stop and the person says, oh, I'm fine, and then you go, well, great, I'm gonna go. At that point, even if they said I'm fine, it's still a hit and run. Because within the eyes of law, you have not stopped to make sure that the proper reports, information is exchanged or anything like that. So those are the actual facts in terms of hit and runs. And I'm just going to do a little pop quiz question here to see if everyone was paying attention. So let's do a little true or false poll. Go ahead and fill that out. All right, go ahead and I'm going to bring that to a close in a few seconds. There we go. And okay, so most of you were paying attention. One of you wasn't. It is absolutely false. If you hit someone, even if it's not your fault, you still have to stop. The second that you run, even if it's not your fault, you actually have committed a crime. Even if you had let's say you were driving down the street and a drunk person darted in front of your car. Entirely not your fault. They darted in front of your car. You had no idea they were coming. They were drunk. There was nothing that you could have done about it. If you were to run from that particular moment, you would actually be considered a criminal. So that is the facts of it, because you are required by law to stop and render aid and make sure that person is, ambulance and police and things like that. If it's not your fault, it's not your fault. You're not going to be charged with anything. Okay, so we're going to flip, and I've got just a couple of minutes left here, specifically to bicycle safety. So in LA County, you have only about 16% of the collisions in LA County involve pedestrians or cyclists. LA County, by the way, is one of the deadliest areas for the entire US. It's deadliest for all traffic collisions. LA City itself is considered the deadliest city of any city in the US for traffic collisions. LA County is one of the deadliest counties in the US. There's a lot of people here, there's a lot of vehicles, and the roads are actually not well designed. So it's a factor in all of the collisions. But when you're dealing with pedestrians and cyclists in a car, you have a big steel cage. When you're a pedestrian and cyclist, you don't have a steel cage protecting you. So they're more likely to be severely injured, even though there's not as many collisions for them. Like the cars are the ones that you see most of the collisions. So statistically speaking, 50% of those killed in traffic collisions and are pedestrians or cyclists, 50%. But only 16% are actually, 16% of the collisions are pedestrians and cyclists. So you get the difference there. Like it's a lot more deadly to be a pedestrian or cyclist. LA County is considered the deadliest county in the entire state of California for cyclists. Now it's a small amount, just realize the number of collisions very, very small, but still it is the deadliest county. So it's something, so we're gonna go over just a couple of very key points of how you can prevent those collisions from happening, because just like you can drive defensively, you can also cycle defensively. And you can make sure that you actually prevent yourself from being hit in the first place. And there are four. These are four key things. There's a lot of different things you can do to make yourself safer, but really there's four of them that are the most key things in terms of being a safe cyclist. One, follow the rules of the road. Okay, pretty simple. If you're a cyclist, you're going with traffic, you're not going against traffic, you're following the stoplights, the stop signs, follow the rules of the road, okay? Two, be visible. If you're going out, let's say it's dusk, don't wear dark clothing, be very visible. Have flashing lights on, even during the daytime, have flashing lights on. Most of the traffic collisions with cyclists happen during the day. 78% of traffic collisions with cyclists happen during the daytime. Be visible. Cars, for whatever reason, I don't know if you've experienced this, cars don't see cyclists as well. And so take extra precaution to be visible. That also means wearing a bicycle helmet. It is a way of being more visible. Most bicycle helmets are very visible, but also it will prevent fatalities. Bicycle helmets do save lives, and I'm alive because I was wearing a bicycle helmet. The next one is be predictable. As a cyclist, don't swerve all over the place. Be predictable in your actions. So the cars can predict with you. That is a way you actually can prevent a collision. And the last one, this is probably the most important one. I can't tell you how important this is. So if you walk away with nothing else today, walk away with this one datum. If you're cycling, always assume that they don't see you until they are 100%, until you're 100% certain that they do. Assume that they don't see you. So I don't know how many times where I've been in front of a car and they literally did not see me and I had to get their attention. Otherwise they would have hit me, especially in intersections. Intersections are the deadliest place for cyclists and for pedestrians. That's where most collisions occur, is when you're dealing with an intersection. So when you're, let's say you're at a stop sign and you've got another car there, check to make sure they see you. Even if you have the right of way, even if you're in the right, always assume they don't see you until you are sure that they do, because that's how most collisions happen, is they literally just don't see you. All right, that was a lot of data. I think my time is up here. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and feel free to contact me if you have other questions, or throw some Q&A questions out there and I'll answer them as best I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien. I appreciate you for sharing your story. So like Damien said, follow the rules of the road, remain alert and visible, and wear a helmet. And most importantly, always assume they don't see you. And also be predictable and take extra care when entering an intersection. So again, thank you, Damien. So now we'll pass it over to Fred Noya with the Carson Sheriff Department.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. This is the first time I've been on this panel, and I just listened to everybody. I really appreciate all the insight everybody's giving and to help out people out in the community. So this is it's a great honor to be here. My story is that I'm going to give you a little bit what I do at the Carson Sheriff Station and also as the LA County Sheriff's Department as a whole. I run the gang intervention program. It's called the Gang Diversion Team. And what that is that it's to actually help out people. So a little bit of my background story. If I'm the next I think next week it's going to be 32 years I've been on law enforcement. It's been a long time, and I've been in a lot of different assignments. I've worked in the jails for a long time, and in those jails, I worked the gang unit. And when I worked the gang unit, I worked mostly all the organized gangs in there, which was mostly the Mexican Mafia members. That was one of my collateral duties when I was working in there. I also had some stints when I worked at a younger age. I worked undercover, and I did that for a long time, mostly in juvenile sectors. So most of my stuff has been with juveniles. And so about 14 years ago, they came up to me and they asked me to put a program together for gang intervention. And I was mostly on the suppression side, but they wanted me to do something where I would be on the preventive measures of kids getting into gangs and also getting into trouble. So I had this triage where I would come up with people like Endless Panel, and we would form a team, and that team would think about all the different things that would happen out in the community that work negative. So our referral process would be like getting all the deans would come to us, parents who didn't know what to do with their kids. It would also be from the probation department, having us help them watch a certain kid. So we would help just kind of like steer things together between a parent and the kids. And my focus is not to try to put a kid in jail. My focus in this program that I've developed is try to help kids that are out there who are going through whatever problems they may have, and try to steer them away from our county jail system. Because I know, and working in the jail system for many years, that you can become a criminal inside the jail. You may go in there not even being a criminal, but when you leave there or you go through a system or prison system, you can become a very good criminal. So, and that's just because you're being in likes of people who would teach you inside there how things worked out in the street and how they worked out inside. And if you're going there 24/7 for however months, or we call it a lid, a 1 year, that can change your life forever. And you may never come back from that. You can come in there at 22 and then you'll be finding yourself in trouble all the time. So our goal is not to make sure that you weren't going to get in there. So most of the problems that we have, and I have about 40 cases that are open. I usually hold about 100 cases a year, and I work with a team, and they come from everywhere. And most of the cases that we have are mostly drug related. Kids that are mostly into gangs, runaways are a big thing, and try to mend the parents and the kids together on runaway reports. Believe it or not, we've been getting a lot of cases of this thing right here, of this device is getting a lot of people in trouble. And that's either by cyberbullying and getting on with social media, or there's extortion plots with social media where there's maybe you took a picture that you totally regret, and that comes back to haunt you. And just remember, everything you put on that phone, or you take a picture or shot, and you think it's going to be between two people, I would never think that in my life. With social media these days, anything can happen. So you can have 10,000 people looking at a photograph that you wish you never would have took. So I work with the parents, and they come to me, and we do a weekly kind of meeting. And I do these weekly meetings separate from the family, meaning the kids I would talk to alone, and the parents I talk to alone, and kind of get a good gauge as to what's going on. And then I develop a plan for both of them and try to mend that plan together and try to bring the family structure together. It's a tough situation when you have kids that are addicted to drugs, and I'm talking about from addicted to vaping, addicted to smoking marijuana, smoking meth, and these things sometimes you never come back from. You can never come back from. You can open up the I call it when you try for the first time, it's just like the genie coming out of the bottle, and you just don't know what's going to happen. A lot of things can happen and it can be very negative in your life, and it can last for years and years and years. So And then we do a pre and a post, and I have like a 70% success rate. And that is, from people who are doing better than when they first got there. So it's a very successful program. This program would not be there for 14 years if it was unsuccessful. They would have got rid of this program a long time ago. So there are 4 different levels. Level 4 being a confirmed gang member who's on probation, who's been arrested, maybe like in a robbery or something. I watch those. Level 3 is those who are kind of like the wannabe or starting to get into it. Usually those are the ones that like the teacher or the parent are like saying, hey, the dress style is different now. My son's now got a shaved head. He got this tattoo. I don't know what it means. It has nothing to do with our family. And then, his grades are dropping. And those are some of the factors that bear into that. Level 2 is just bad attendance, or may have been doing some drugs, and their schoolwork has gone down, or they may not have been coming home at times that the parents want them to. Now, level 1 is those that want to see, these are kids that come to us that want to get into like say a Explorer program, or they want to be a police officer, or they need a mentor. Then we come in with that. So there are different focuses on how we deal with the different situations, because we believe there is no situations that is the same. The background can be completely different in every single family. And what got him to that point where a kid is not talking to the parent anymore could be the parent, or it could be a friend or a cousin or something like that has affected them, or a neighbor that has affected them, that they no longer want to speak and communicate with the parents. And I think that's a shame, but it's the way it is. Why would a person ever run away from home? There's a lot of different reasons. It's not just one that you can say, oh, it's because of this. And why now are they getting into human trafficking and all these other things? So there's a lot of different variables that are out there, and the answer comes up different every time. So I just want to share that with everybody, and just kind of like, if you ever, I'll bring up my my information here, but this is just one thing that I do talk about. Here's a teen safety. And I'm gonna share this with you. So one of the things that I do talk about, and that's my information there real quick. You can email me at fjnoya@LASD. Let's see if it's, okay, there you go. That's my information there. Call me anytime at my desk, anytime, and I'll return your call. And we can talk about anything. So some of my clients, some of the parents, they're from out of state. Most of the people I do deal with is mostly from the South Bay, Harbor area, South Central, and Long Beach. That's mostly where I get most of the kids that come to us. So if you're a parent out there and you just want some information about anything, I'm here to give you that answer. Or if I don't have it, I have an expertise in some form or fashion out there that will get you that answer. We have a lot of experts that are on our department that can get you answers. So I'm kind of like the liaison to a lot of that. So just one thing, we talked about like social media. So if there was problems with social media. Now, this one thing here is, Roberta touched on it. And this is one of the things that we've seen out in the streets. And I think it is one of the most deadly things out there right now. And because what we've seen, and it is fentanyl. And I'm not going to go over what Roberta, went over, because she did a great job of doing that. But I just want to tell you that this is being used with other things that people don't even know they're putting this into some other drugs that they think, oh, it's just like, I'm going to do a line of cocaine, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this I'm going to take this with some alcohol. You do this, the fentanyl, and it can kill you in an instant. It has killed athletes. It has killed celebrities. It has killed politicians. It has killed your everyday person out there, and it is not going away. So this drug here, just remember it, okay? How strong it is. It's 100 times stronger than morphine. So what it is basically is kind of like a, people use it for cancer. So almost like an anesthesia, so to speak. So if you take this at this a certain level like this that Roberta already showed you, just that much can kill you. Just that much can kill you. So just so you know how dangerous it can be, in 2019, I think it was July 2019, in Nogales, there's a little place, it's Maricopa port of entry through Mexican border and through the Arizona border, United States. And there was a truck that came in with some cucumbers from Mexico. And it didn't look right to the customs agents that were working that port. And so what they did is they had a secondary check. They do a secondary check. And in that secondary check, because there was something that wasn't right with that, with the way the cucumbers were stacked or how they tipped them off, but something led them to do a secondary check. And in that secondary check, there was a canine that hit, and that canine hit on the 254 pounds of fentanyl. 254 pounds of fentanyl, which is almost a street value of about $3.5 million out there. So think of that. A little truck comes in with cucumbers, and now you have that. So now you're asking yourself, okay, so we catch drugs all the time. I mean, on the port, all the time. We do it all the time. What do you think is the problem with that catch? There was one thing I mentioned that I think should concern everyone, and that is the cucumbers. That is going into our food source here in the United States. Now, you see what we're looking at here, and that penny right there, and that's how much that can kill you. So if it was packaged, and that package was leaked out onto some cucumbers, what do you think the damage would do after it has gone into the United States and those cucumbers have been disseminated all over the place? When you're talking about to different salad bars, to restaurants, to homes, and someone ingests that small amount and not even know it. So that's how dangerous it really could be. So, you know, when I say about this, it's a synthetic drug. It's made out of China. And then what they do is they transport that drug into the gangs over in Mexico. And the cartel gets it, and the cartel brings it over. And that's how it's brought over most of the time. So they found a route. You get these routes all over throughout the borders, and they bring them in. So I teach parents about that. I teach parents about social media, where the kids can hide things on social media. I teach parents and kids about what is out there, what's the latest thing out there, what gangs are, what they're trying to do with gangs, from extortion to forgery, how you should, you know, always take care of when you're giving out your credit card information, things like that. Just everyday things that are in law enforcement that could help you. But so I gave you my information on that, and anytime that you want to, you know, call me or want to set up a meeting with just a small group of parents, or, you know, some other, you know, presenters want me to come in, I'm more than willing to do that. So just know that I'm here for the parents, and, you know, being a parent myself, I know there's a lot of, you know, stressors that are out there to raise, you know, your children. So there's a lot of things that you got to look out for drug abuse. You know, you got to watch about the irritability, their aggression, their attitudes, how they change. All of a sudden they become lazy and lethargic. So these are also for the parents. And then the changes in their circle of friends and their habits. So these are some of the estimates here. You know, according to the, you know, drugfree.org, 10% estimate of 1.4 million teens with substance abuse and drug problems receive recovery treatment. You just don't want your child to be a statistic. You think you can have a child that is maybe onto drugs or goes through a county jail system and 17 or 18. And I'm going to tell you, that kid can be with you when you're in your 80s, and that kid is in their 50s, they'll still be with you and they won't leave. And I've seen that happen. So be careful of that fact. Monitor, but don't be the helicopter parent either, that you're just completely over your child, that you can't trust your child at all. So you got to have a game plan as to how you can communicate and keep an open dialogue with your kids. It's very important. It's very important because you just don't know what can happen out there. And I know every parent that's out there, it's a frightening situation. And you'll see that Lily's going to be talking next about some of the situations that that happened to her in her past. And I just want to thank you for just having me here. And that's pretty much it. I'm willing to help out any parent or any child that's out there, any teen that's out there right now that wants to ask me questions. You got my information, call me. You can get my information through the chat here. I can communicate with you. I have no problem. It's been a good career in law enforcement. Like I say, at 32 years, I've seen it all of it. And it's never slowing down. So, we're in a tough time right now in law enforcement. We're in a tough time, and I've been through a lot of tough times. Just know that things will always get better, and that our thing is to have a bridge between the community and law enforcement. And it's not to put you in jail. It's not to think that we're out there to get everybody, because that's not the case. I've been doing this program for 14 years, and some of these kids that have been in my program are now police officers. And that's a testament of being doing good work, and they're going on with their lives. So I want to thank you. So that's about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. So now we'll hand it over to Lily and Maria, and they will talk about seatbelt safety.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I want, first of all, Lily and I would like to introduce Maria as well. We are from Street Racing Kills. I am the founder, and Maria is our outreach coordinator in North Carolina. I want to thank everybody that's back from Monday, and also welcome everybody that is here from new for Friday. Thank you, Fred. That was amazing. We could all share so many stories. And I know I promised everyone that came on Monday that I would share Valentina's story and see what happened. So in a minute, I'm going to go ahead right now and share my screen. And also, you guys don't want to watch a short video like last time, but this is a different video. Here we go, guys. So yeah, I think most of us, when we were young, one of the most important things that we wanted to do was learn how to drive so we could be independent and go everywhere and be able to just drive to school by ourselves, and have our friends in the car and listen to music. But one of the things that I learned the hard way, I mean, I had no idea when I first started this. And one of the things, but I didn't know that crashes are still the leading causes of teen deaths. So impairment passengers, distraction from mobile phones, navigation systems, speeding, street racing, and not wearing a seatbelt are among the major contributing factors to the number of teen injuries and fatalities on our nation roads each year. I don't know how many of you knew that. I didn't know. I had no idea how many teens died due to a crash. But this is why we're here for you guys today, because we want to inform you of the dangers that are out there. And I know, like I said before, I want to show you this video and just watch it and we'll talk about it afterwards. So the picture that you see right here is Valentina. On your left-hand side, that's my daughter. The last pictures that you saw were her funeral. On your right-hand side right here, and you saw the mom crying and hysterically. That's Maria, and Maria is here with us. And the only reason why Maria shared such a private moment in her life, when her 10-year-old boy passed away, is so you guys can see that this is real and this happens. Maria, would you like to share with us briefly? Tell us how was Durrell and what happened to Durrell?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, first, I want to thank everybody for listening. My name is Maria Avila. I'm the woman you saw screaming in the video. It was taken after my 10-year-old son, Durrell, was killed in a street race on September 3rd, 2018. I lost my only son that day. He was my firstborn. I was so proud to have a big brother for my daughters, someone who I could always protect them. But he was taken from all of us that day. 4 people met at a gas station here in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. They left the gas station and started to race each other. Down the road, my son and his stepfather, William, were approaching the intersection and saw them race by. William then decided to turn behind them and join in. The next turn was the road I had lived on for 7 years. They turned down my road and kept racing about a mile down. William was trying to overtake one of the other racers at 92 miles per hour when he lost control of his car. His car went through someone's yard before going through an empty lot. The car hit a well sticking up from the ground and flipped 4 to 5 times. Durrell was thrown his body was found 30 feet from where the rear of the vehicle landed. I was walking out of my mom's house from my house as she lived right by me when I saw William running up screaming, "Durrell, I'm so sorry, Durrell." And I was screaming at him, "Where's my son?" And he just ran past me towards my mom's house. I just kept running towards the road. My mom heard the commotion and came out. She got in her car, and William got in the car with her and told her Durrell was dead. She came and picked me up as I was still running. He never told me my son was dead, so when I got down the road to the scene, I ran and grabbed his head and was screaming, "He's still alive. There's a pulse." He was just staring at me, but he was gone. What I thought was a pulse was a skull crushing in my hands. From that moment on, my life would never be the same. I had to make the decision to cremate him that night. I told my mom I can't bury him here because we're not from here. but I can't have him buried in New York because I'm not there. I had to decide that night to donate what organs I could. We as parents should never have to make these decisions. I found out about a month after Darrell was killed that William had been racing with all of my children. It was so hard to find that out because me and my kids are close, and they never told me. So I asked my girls why they never told me. They said because they didn't know it was wrong. One thing I ask you is to teach your children about the dangers of drunk and erratic driving and street racing. If they don't know it's wrong, they can't speak up. One last thing I want to say is Darrell, much like any other child, would have thought it was fun to sit in the front seat and go fast. His stepfather let him sit up front with no seatbelt on. The man he trusted to ensure his safety at all times didn't do that. So please tell your children to buckle up and let them know the dangers that can happen if they don't buckle, because it can save their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, so much for sharing your story with us about Darrell. The reason why Maria is with Street Racing Kills is because she wants to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone. Darrell was only 10 years old. But I know that we have a lot of teenagers here listening to us that you guys know better, right? You guys know you have to put your seatbelt on. As you know, well, Valentina was a 16-year-old. She went to Torrance High. She was happy, you know, to be in school, to have all these friends that you can see her here with all her friends, and you know, dressing up, doing different things, making fun, making videos. You know, go to Jamba Juice. That was her favorite place in the world, and she had a very strong personality, and she stood for a lot of things, and she was very strong in her personality. She wanted to make sure that I would never judge her friends for their economical background, for their sexuality, or for their race, or anything like that. She was very strong. She loved all her friends. She loved everyone, and everybody know how she was. She had no idea, but I promised you since Monday that I was going to share to you what happened to her. And what happened to her was that she wanted to go to a party that night. I'm sorry, to spend the night, but her best friend wanted to go to a party. They got invited and she wanted to have her back, and they went to a kickback party. When they arrived to this kickback party, there was drugs and alcohol. Like we talked about before, you never know sometimes if there's going to be drugs or now. It's going to be alcohol now when you go to these parties. She had no idea. And when she got there, the first thing they did was give her a drink. They were all 16 years old. The boy that took them there, they gave them a ride, was 17 shy of 18. When they got there, they were having fun, but her best friend got really, really sick, started throwing up, and Valentina and her other friend were taking care of her. Because of that, they decided to call it a night and go back. As he was giving them a ride home, unfortunately, he got challenged to a street race by another coworker. Valentina was sleeping in the back seat without her seatbelt. So was Massey in the back as well. When he stopped and got challenged, Massey woke up, her best friend, and saw how they were challenging each other to the race. And they took off, and it was very fast. Massey was very scared how fast they were going, but at the same time, she didn't speak up. She didn't say anything. She didn't tell him to stop. What she did do was right away tell Valentina to put her seatbelt on because how fast they were going and how scary it was. By the time Valentina turned and looked at her, they crashed. When Massey woke up, Valentina was hanging from the window. And this is something Massey will never forget. Her best friend, her friend that she spent every day with, text every day, called every day, spent summers with her, sleepovers after sleepover, hanging out at the beach, was gone. And that's something that unfortunately Massey and all of her friends have lived with. And it's something that can be completely prevented. I had no idea what happened. When I went to the hospital, they just told me that she had died. I found out later. And I was thinking to myself, what did she do wrong? What did I do wrong? What happened? Why did the driver make that decision to street race? I had no idea what street racing was. Then I was like, wow, I didn't know that when you're in the back seat, you should always put your seatbelt on. Adults don't put their seatbelt on. So I just want you guys to know the importance of wearing your seatbelt. Darrell was too young. He was 10 years old. His stepfather should have put the seatbelt on him. And of course, he shouldn't have raced. With Valentina, unfortunately, the driver ended up going to juvenile hall. And believe me, he did not come back the same. Just like Officer Noya said, you don't come back the same. When he was going there, I met with him and we cried together. And he was so upset that he didn't get anything from Val, not even a necklace. And he couldn't even go to the funeral because everybody was going to kill him or something. He was afraid to go there. He was a scared 18-year-old. But when he came out, he was bitter. He was upset that I had the organization. He was totally different. And he'll live the rest of his life knowing that he killed someone, that he killed Valentina and took her out of this world when she had so many dreams. I never thought this would happen to me. As you can see right there, that's my son hugging me. I'm not hugging him. I totally lost it and I thought it was in the movie. And I didn't want to be one of those parents that lost a child. And there's so many of us. I've met so many people throughout this journey. This is why we're all here. There's so many people that end up with organization. There's some people that just end up parents that end up without children. But I knew one thing, guys. I knew that I would do everything to make sure that what happened to Val would not happen to you. And I asked an officer why. Why? Why does this happen? I mean, why? What happened to Val? Why did she ended up, why did she die? And I didn't know, we always talk about one crash, right? And as I told you guys before last week, there's a story behind this crash. Every time you guys see a crash on TV or hear about a crash, there's a huge story after. So families being affected, people ended up injured for the rest of their life, just like Damien, that he's a survivor, but he ended up losing his leg. And I'm sure he has other physical problems as well. But that's why he's here today talking to you guys as well. So when there's a crash, there is actually 3 crashes. And one of them is the automobile against an object. The second one is your body against an object. And the third one is your organs against your body. So that's how hard it is when there's a crash. It's not just the car, it's everything together. And that's what can kill someone or leave them injured for the rest of their lives. So we gotta think inside ourselves, what can we do to prevent this? What can we do if we ever get challenged to a street race? I don't want anyone to be part of a memorial. As you can see, there's Valentina's memorial. Yes, it's beautiful. And I'm sure you guys see them always out there. There is also a story behind that memorial. There's someone that passed away. There's someone where the family is completely shattered forever. And when they go to court, believe me, the person that goes to jail, their family is shattered forever because it's very hard to see them going to jail and not see them for a long time. The only difference is that they get to see them again when they come out. The difference with us on the other side is that we hope to see them when we die. So I'll leave you guys with this. I want to tell you that you belong in this world. For all you students out there right now, you belong in this world. And I want you guys to not just dream your dreams, but live your dreams. Don't be a poem in this life. Be a story in this life. Be a book. Do everything that you want to do. I want you guys to live what Daryl, what Valentina, and so many other kids that have died, to live what they couldn't live, because life is so beautiful. And you guys want to share your victories and make your mistakes. Don't get upset at your parents when they're being crabby, when they don't listen to you. Just know that we love you to pieces and we're doing everything that we can. And sometimes parents are just thinking of putting a roof over your head, making sure you go to school, making sure you do your homework, making sure you eat, right? But guys, you guys can talk to them, and you guys can talk to your friends, and you guys can speak up if you're ever in a bad situation. Remember to always put your seatbelt on, even if you're in the back seat. And please go to streetracingkills.org and sign the pledge that you ever get challenged to a street race, or you feel like speeding or racing. Don't do it. You have a voice, and you can always tell your friend if he decides to street race that you're going to puke in his car. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily and Maria. I truly admire your strength. Thank you for sharing your story. So I know now.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have a poll. I forgot about my poll. Sorry.
So I will go ahead and launch the first poll. And that poll question is, do you buckle up when sitting in the back seat?
That was before I talked to you guys, okay?
So we are going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So
100%.
yeah,
Very good, very good. That's life-saving.
yes. And then we do have a second poll. What would you do if you are caught in a potential street race? Do you tell the driver not to do it, take away the keys, ask to get out of the car, or all the above? And we are going to close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, all of the above, most of them.
Yes.
Yes, they're all important. There's all the things you can do. I mean, you can always tell a driver not to do it, which is very important. You can take away the keys if it's on time. You can ask to be dropped off right away. And like I said, my last one that I heard from a police officer yesterday was just tell them you're going to puke in their car and we'll see what they say.
Yes. So thank you, Lily and Maria, for sharing your stories. Again, like I said, I admire your strength as a parent. So now we will move into our question and answers. And we did have a question, and Damien, thank you for responding to Maya's question. Are melatonin pills gummies drugs? And Damien's response was, melatonin is a natural chemical that the body produces. It is not considered a drug and can be purchased over the counter without a prescription. It will cause one to feel tired, and it is dangerous to drive when one is not alert and fully awake. So again, Maya, thank you for your question, and Damien, thank you for responding to Maya's question. So we do have another question. So our first question would be, what should I do if my friend is driving the car and smoking weed? So anyone can answer that, any of our presenters, if you like.
I can take that one. Something that Lily brought up was that yesterday they talked about what are some excuses that you can say if you want to get out the car as soon as possible. And honestly, no one likes to throw up in their car. I've never had it in my car, but it's just, who would want that? So if you do see that a friend is doing that and you're not the one who's driving, you can definitely say something like, honestly, I'm about to throw up. The smell's making me nauseous. Can I get out the car, or can you drop me off home, or whatever you need to say to get out of that situation.
Thank you, Minor, for that. So we do have another question. So when it comes to vaping, someone asked for clarity on was it vaping nicotine or THC when vaping was mentioned?
Oh, that was me. Yeah, so in the scenario, I mentioned that your friend essentially told you, oh, it's just marijuana, he can still drive us back. So yeah, it is marijuana or THC.
Okay, again, thank you, Minor. And then we do have another question. How can I have a conversation with someone with an alcohol dependence about drunk driving?
Can you repeat the question, Erica?
It was, how can I have a conversation with someone with an alcohol dependence about drunk driving?
Well, I think that's always a difficult conversation to have, especially depending on who it is. But number one, you always want to let them know that you care about them. You just want to see them home safe. And at the very minimum, if they are going to risk their life, at least, try to get no one to ride with the car with them. Try to take care of the passengers the best you can.
Okay, and then we do have a hand raised from Maria. Riel, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question or type it in the chat. Maria, are you there?
I'm sorry, I'm here. What was the question?
I saw that you had your hand raised. It was Maria.
I think it's Marla.
Oh, Marla, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So Marla, if you have a question, can you unmute yourself or type your question in the Q&A or chat?
She left.
Okay, okay.
I'd like to chime in a little bit on that last one where the person talked about alcohol. I had a stepfather that was an alcoholic, and he was sort of a closet where my mom would go to work, and it was a tough situation where I couldn't say anything to my mom when my stepfather would. He was an alcoholic, but I couldn't say nothing to my mom because I was scared. So I think it's really important that you got to speak. If you see something, say something. And I was such a young age, intimidated. And then later on, I was able to speak up to her about it. But he would drink and take us to Los Angeles sometimes and drink. I don't know how I made it alive as a kid, actually, but I would always go in with some of your friends to go in and show them that you really care about them if they're drinking. And that's I think the biggest aspect of communicating. You're doing this because you care. So I thought, because I had firsthand experience in that, so I thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you, Ron, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
It seems like there's a question in the chat actually, or in the Q&A box that says, sorry, Erica, but it says, hello, is there a contact info list to get in touch with you guys? So, Jen, I believe they're going to be getting our presentations, right? I don't know. Okay, so yeah, what we can do is if you want, you can put it in the chat if you'd like our contact information, and yeah, if we'll make something happen. We'll make magic happen.
Okay, thank you, Minor, for answering that. So again, like Minor mentioned, our speakers, our presenters will put their contact information in a chat. So feel free to pull out your phone, take a picture of that information if you need to, and then also we'll include it in a follow-up email. So now we will go into our evaluation period. So we will go ahead and put the evaluation link in the chat. So please make sure that you complete the evaluation, as we would love to hear your feedback, what you've learned, what we can work on. So if you would take a moment to complete the evaluation, and then also you will receive the evaluation link also in a follow-up email as well. So now we have raffle time. So the way the raffle will work, we will look at our attendance list and we will see who actually attended the meeting. And I know that there's a lot of teens on, and the raffle is specifically for our teen youth audience. So again, we'll look at our attendees list, and then we'll go from there and pick our winners. So the way it'll work is based off the youth attendees versus the youth who registered. So we want to make sure that you all are all entered into the raffle, and we'll send you a follow-up email tonight with the raffle winners. And then from there, we'll also send a link to those raffle winners requesting your address. That way we can send out the gift certificates to you, gift cards to you. So those places would be like Starbucks, Coffee Bean, Chipotle. So good luck with that. So we would like to give a special thank you to those who were involved in the planning, preparation, and participation of this event. So that would be Damian Kevitt, Dee Dee Gonzalez, myself, Erica Winston, Fred Noya, Jen Harris, Jerry Lynch, John Yee, Lily Trujillo, Lori Argumero, Maria Avila, and Minor Borjas, Roberta Tapp, and Roberto Gomez. So again, thank you all for being here with us tonight. I know we went a little bit over, but we appreciate you for your time and your patience, and we hope to see you all next year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Be sure and buckle up.
Bye, Lily.
Bye. Bye, Ron. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry I was late, guys. I got stuck somewhere, but
Okay. Thank you, Minor. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, everyone. Melissa, nice to see you again.
Thank you all.
And the Invisible Jen, Roberta, thank you guys. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much for helping us do this today.
Thank you.
Great job, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Minor, we can have a going off song. Well, nope, nobody else is here. We're good.
Well, what about for us?
We can have a going off song. I'm just gonna copy. I'm gonna copy the info.
Wait, Jen, we're still live on Facebook.
Yep, that makes a good point.